time, the whole thing was shadowing us, right behind us, right on the side of us. You could kind of see the thing moving through the woods.
All I can remember is flipping the light on, and I see this creature, and I knew in my heart, I knew in my mind, and the whole night, this isn't a man.
And then this thing walks across the road, takes a turn towards us, and then leaps over a guardrail.
Went to look forward, and there was a big black thing.
Welcome to Squatch-D TV, exploring the Bigfoot mystery each week with your hosts, veteran researcher, author, and TV personality, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, and from the Bigfoot Research Project of Kentucky, Chris Bennett. Sit back and buckle up as we bring you guests from around North America discussing the Bigfoot phenomena, but not without a few laughs too. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, January 8th, 2023. I'm your host, your guy, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, along with my co-host. There he is.
What's going on, Mr. Steve? Good to see you, bud.
Hello, Mr. Chris Bennett. How are you tonight?
I am doing great, and the weather has been nice and wonderful here lately. I was able to get outside a little bit yesterday, but literally seconds before the show started, something got into my eye. I have no idea what it is, but if I blank out here for a minute, I may have to go to the bathroom and run some water in my eye. I have not. It can't be hair. I don't Murphy's Law, but that's okay. We'll work through that.
And as you know, folks, tonight we're joined by our guest, Dr. Timm Otterson, DVM. There he is down there. Hello, Tim. How are you tonight?
Oh, just great. How are you guys?
We are marvelous. Well, I'm marvelous. I don't know about old Scratch guy there.
I'll be able to, I'll either be okay or I'll come back with an eye patch,
Stop rubbing it.
Okay. I'm sorry.
You can only make it worse if you rub it.
Yeah, well, can't not rub it.
I was a medic at one time.
Yeah.
Anyway, a few things, folks. If you're first time here, welcome. I know we've gotten a lot of new subscribers over the last 6 weeks since we've been doing all the other stuff, the Squatch stories, the laugh tracks, and all that fun stuff. So welcome to everybody that's new. Bring up a chair, make yourself at home. Good to see you guys. And the other thing too is that we just launched a website for just the YouTube channel. It's Squatchdetective.tv, and it's got, if you want to see everything about this channel, just go to Squatchdetective.tv. There's also a place where you can get emailed notifications about new videos as well. So if you go down there, you sign up for the notification on the videos, you'll get an email saying, hey, we just cut a new video. So that's up. Now, this week, for those who don't know, we took a poll for perhaps starting a behind the scenes look type of membership thing. It's by no means going to affect any of the content we put up there. Squatch-D TV will always be free. Some of the background stuff, it's just a way of supporting the channel. Some of the background stuff, you may see some behind the scenes stuff and maybe some outtakes and maybe a little special project here and there that I'm doing that's really not going to make it to the YouTube platform. So, maybe I'll even show you some evidence that I don't publicly put out there as evidence, but may have some bearing. So we'll be launching. We took a vote, and it turned out to be something like 60-40, pretty much. I think it was like 61-39 in favor of starting a membership. So we're going to throw that out there. Nobody has to subscribe that doesn't want to. You're not going to see anything drop off here. We have too much fun doing this stuff. So we'll still have the analysis. We'll still have Squatch stories. We'll still have the podcast. We'll still have laugh tracks. What goes on there is going to be even extra. So,
and I just wanted to mention real quick that if any of you guys are doing the streaming, live streaming or something, instead of like when you cut the cable, over on the Tubi TV website, they've got a new documentary. I don't know. I thought it was new, but come to find out, it was a couple of years ago it came out. But they just got it on Tubi TV. It's called Mountain Devil 2. And it's the search for Jan Clement. Yeah, right. And Steve did a whole investigation and a whole show about that. So Steve had some major airtime on that. I thought it was pretty good. I was like, "Whoa, Steve, dude!" But his findings were really, really interesting.
Yep. Yeah, I
thought I'd mention that. It's on Tubi. It's free.
For those who don't know, there was a book called The Creature written in 1976 under a pseudonym of Jan Clement. And what this documentary covers is exactly who is Jan Clement. And it's about the first really written account of alleged Bigfoot habituation. And very interesting how the story ends. It's not a very thick book, but supposedly it was supposed to be a real thing. And it was based on a lot of real geographic locations. And I did a long investigation on that. And reached out to some locals and stuff like that. So pretty much nailed who Jan Clement was.
Yes. They still don't admit to that, though, on the documentary, but the evidence is right there, even from the Library of Congress.
Yep.
Listing
the one
you found,
that I found. Yep.
That was good. That's the nail in the coffin right there.
Yep. I actually found the actual person who uses the pseudonym Jan Clement, and no surprise, it was somebody related to that event. So
watch the documentary.
That's right.
Or you go back and listen to our show on it. I can't remember which one that was, but
I know
it's in one of them.
Well, this is episode 108.
Oh.
And today's episode, and to think we've taken here and there because of my job, the period usually the end of summer through the beginning of fall, I'm kind of tied up.
Yeah, we took a little time off. Yeah,
I don't know if we're going to do that this year though. This year's I think it's going to be a little bit different. I think so. We'll see. But yeah, so we're going to roll out the membership thing probably another month or so. We'll see. How things progress, but and the reason, like I said, the reason why is that we're trying to up our game a bit here, and we have a lot of things in place, and it costs quite a bit of money to keep some of this stuff rolling. So it's just going to offset the cost of what we're spending to keep this stuff going on. I certainly don't expect to be retiring because of my YouTube channel anytime in the near future. So. That's for sure. This is a labor of love. I
don't look forward to the costs of getting back in the field again, because that's going to cost a lot of pain and suffering. But it'll be good for me.
And gas. Yep. And for those who are in chat, let's remind everybody while you're here, smash that like button while you're here and while it's early on. Just we appreciate it. Helps us with the algorithm. Smash that thumbs up. Leave a comment after the show what you thought. And we're going to be getting in with Tim now, and
that'll help us get found. It really does. I mean,
yes,
if you don't, nobody will know we're here.
Yep. And okay, Dr. Tim, you're in the hot seat now.
Excellent.
So, Dr. Tim, you've written this wonderful book, All Creatures Weird and Dangerous. Great read. I just got done with the Sasquatch chapter today, and you really write quite elegantly, and I'm enjoying it. And so why don't you set out and tell us a little bit. First, let's talk a little bit about the book, your background and why you wrote the book.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're enjoying it. And thanks for having me on. This is like I'm so pleased to be here. I practically want to pinch myself. Because I see how many great people you've had on this program. I've spent the weekend going back through your old shows, which I'm sure your regular viewers do, and you guys are very busy.
Yes.
So I live in Buffalo, New York, and I am a veterinarian. I have been practicing in the small animal practice for the last 24 years. And I have an interest in cryptozoology, always have. And I decided I would write a book, write a memoir about, what it would be like to be a veterinarian for all creatures. So, and there've been some really great veterinary memoirs out there. Most people know of James Herriot, and I co-opted the name from him. And so I just went with it.
Very cool. Now,
you got a lot of fans in the chat.
Yeah, you sure do.
Yeah, these are all people. These are my friends, and at least a couple of them where I've obviously been promoting this locally, through all this
awesome
media and texting and telling them about your show and all that. So I hope we all get some nice exposure tonight. Yeah.
So here's the question I have. You're a veterinarian. What in the world made you decide, hey, what would it be like to, talk about a Sasquatch or talk about a unicorn or talk about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's it's a memoir, right? So, I'm trying to cover, things that happened to me. And there's doctors for everybody. Your cat, your dog. We talked about your dog when I met you at the expo. I mean, people love veterinarians. They love what we do. I spent a lot of time as a wildlife rehabber when I was in school with mainly birds, which is just a fantastic experience. And then I thought it was time to, write something kind of outside the box, to talk about these creatures as wildlife. And so everybody loves Bigfoot, as you know. I mean, it's a huge topic. So, and I worked in a zoo for a while. One of my friends is the zoo vet. I volunteer there a little bit here at the Buffalo Zoo, probably not as much as I should. So it's just a matter of, taking that next step and making it a little bit more exotic.
Nice. So at the zoo, what was the most coolest animal you ever worked on?
Yeah. So, I thought I wanted to be a wildlife vet and a zoo vet when I was going through school. I work in an all-feline practice here in Buffalo. So I don't do that currently. But when I was a student, I worked at the Gladys Porter Zoo in Brownsville, Texas, which is a lovely little zoo there. I also worked at the wildlife clinic at Tufts University. I did a rotation there too. And man, the creatures you can see at a zoo. I have probably had a part in treating, just about everything you can think of. One day you show up and they say, okay, it's time to get blood from the elephants, be careful, don't wear your steel-toed shoes, don't go on the wrong side of the bars. And one day she's like, okay, we have to give the chemotherapy agent to the cobra. She's doing really well. So, and like the next thing you know, I'm not making any of this up. The next thing you know, you're in with like an 8-foot snake that could, kill everybody in the room. Right. And, one day we were like doing rhino transport. It's a fun profession. It's a fun profession. I got, as a wildlife, as a student in wildlife, we had, bald eagles and peregrine falcons and these birds get found on the side of the road and they get brought to the vet hospital and, someone's got to care for them. Right. Yeah.
Well, I think I would draw the line at snakes, especially venomous snakes.
Chris hates snakes.
Right. No, you're right, Chris, because a lot of places do. They won't treat anything venomous. Like at the LSU, I went to LSU in Baton Rouge, Louisiana State University. I'm from Louisiana and Texas originally. And they won't treat anything venomous there because they just don't want anything getting loose and killing somebody on campus. But one of the odder things that happened when I was at the zoo in Brownsville, Texas, they're on the Mexican border. So if there's any kind of seizure by at the border, it mostly goes to the zoo. It mostly goes to the zoo, and they had several hundred rattlesnakes that somebody was trying to smuggle in. And one of my days was working in the reptile house with the snake handlers with a whole bunch of rattlesnakes.
Boy, that must have been a happy bunch of snakes.
They're beautiful. I mean, they're really cool, and some Gila monsters and Mexican bearded lizards. Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun.
Well, I went to one rattlesnake roundup when I lived in New Mexico, and I kind of enjoyed it. It was nice.
Yeah.
And it's just like the comedian Jerry Clower describes, they stretch the rattlesnake out, they measure it, they do around it, the diameter and everything, and then they take it down to this one part where they put it on a board, and a guy with an axe just whack and cuts its head off. And Jerry said that's the part he liked, and I agree. That was a good part.
Okay.
Don't like snakes.
You know what we missed to do today, Chris? This was the roll call.
We didn't do roll call. That's right. That's right. And there was the first one, Ammon Chris was the very first one in, and he had a great Sasquatch quote to live by. And I think these are words of wisdom. I'm going to put it up, Steve.
Go right ahead.
The real Sasquatch was the friends you made along the way.
That's right.
Oh, that's good. That's good, Chris. That's good.
But, we all know who's in the chat, and I want to say hello to all the new folks that are in today.
Wait a minute. Before we get happy birthday, Joe. I didn't forget you, buddy. I was watching something else.
Yeah, today's Old Man River's birthday. Hello. Yeah. Happy birthday again, Joe. We finally... we were able to pick up the newspaper off the floor from Professor McGillicuddy's visit this morning. So we have to put newspaper down when he shows up just in case. So,
yes, always wise. Yeah.
But okay, we're gonna we'll do roll call towards the end if we have time. Okay, so the book. Let's get back to the book for a second.
Yeah.
I know you have selected a passage or two you'd like to read to the audience just to give them a little taste of their whistle. So I'll give you the floor. There you go.
Okay. So you brought up that you enjoyed the part about finding Bigfoot near my house. So yep. I'll jump into that and just read for like a couple minutes if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep,
okay.
Sure.
And there's little sections. I mean, one of the really enjoyable things about writing a memoir is you can write whatever you want, right? So there's stuff about my father. There's stuff about school, there's, there's all sorts of topics that we can go into. So this is when I was 16 years old, and we'd moved to North Louisiana. I grew up in El Paso, Texas, mostly out in the desert, and we moved to North Louisiana, and it kind of blew my mind. You guys have been around. The woods of North Louisiana are really beautiful. There's cypress trees all over the place, and moss, and all sorts of creatures. So my brother and I, he's about 7 years older than me. Spent a lot of time out in the woods, enjoying things and enjoying the, enjoying what's out there. So I'll jump in talking about my brother and me, just enjoying the woods out there. So we loved walking in the woods at night and did it almost every evening. It was especially good when the moon was out. We loved those woods and all the exotic creatures, and would wander around trying to triangulate where the owls were roosting based on their calls. We'd bring flashlights, but not because we needed them. We knew every trail and twist in these woods. We'd use them to light up the eyes of the animals we came across. The best part of the game was trying to figure out if it was a deer or a fox or a raccoon. The coolest eyes we found were the alligators floating in the lake and ponds. It was an almost prehistoric feeling. The woods could get a little spooky sometimes, knowing that there were snakes and alligators all over. You just never knew what you could run into at night. One time, one of our neighboring fences must have come down, and a creature walked in to graze upon all the fresh pasture. This was a former farm. It was an abandoned farm that we lived next to, which was just fantastic because there were dams and old buildings and trails and ponds and that sort of thing. We saw him a good ways off one night, and it scared the hell out of us. We kept our distance, studying him, trying to figure out what this enormous four-legged, slow-moving creature in the tall grass was. We snuck closer. He did not seem to be intimidated by us, and then, ever so slowly, he raised his big bovine head. Pretty cool, we thought. We didn't expect to find a cow in our woods. The following night, we were out making the rounds again. We had not been to the greenhouse in a couple of days, and made our way there with a purpose to check our crops. There was a greenhouse out in the woods, and my brother's a really keen horticulturist. He still is. And so this abandoned greenhouse. So we started growing all sorts of stuff out there, all sorts of herbs and tomatoes and stuff. So we headed out to check our crops. We always walked quietly and listened. As we approached the greenhouse, we heard a crash. That damn cow had found our secret garden. You can imagine the kind of damage a 1,200-pound cow can do to a garden. We were pissed, but we were also a little afraid of the cow. I think I do too much cats. Most cows are generally docile, but some breeds are kind of nuts. My brother knew this from his time on the horse farm. We were going to scare this cow, but we were going to do it carefully. We made our plans. Brad, my brother, was in charge. I was going to follow his lead. I felt like I was preparing for combat duty. We just watched the first Terminator movie together the night before. We were going to be cow commandos. Thinking it was a cow was reasonable. We were so wrong. My brother and I stealthily approached our violated greenhouse. Our anticipation was huge. You could hear the creature moving around inside and hear the chomping. I can still hear those crunching sounds to this day. As we approached the dirty glass and struggled to look through, we could see a large shape inside. My brother gave a cool hand signal as if he was the platoon leader, and we silently shifted over a couple of steps to look in through the broken pane. As I stared in, my first instinct was to run, and I would have if not for my brother holding me back. Squatting in our rich soil was an enormous hairy primate chowing down on our carrots. He was pulling out entire clusters by the greens, shaking off the dirt, and munching them down casually. I was a pretty confident nature boy at this point. Snakes, alligators, tarantulas, horses, snapping turtle, they were all just part of my life. I had seen a good bit and had composure when interacting with strange and scary animals. Once, when I was 10, I got to wrestle with a tiger cub at the El Paso Zoo where my mother was a docent. but nothing prepares you from standing 20 feet from Bigfoot.
Excellent.
Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. So this is now we all got to ask: fictional account, real account,
So
artistic licensing.
a little bit.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. No,
I know you want to keep the air of the book kind of a mystery.
Yeah. So yeah, we had joked about that a few days ago. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time in those woods. I saw some weird stuff in those woods. My brother and I had been to that greenhouse when something was in it knocking around. I have no idea what that was. I've been camping in those woods when creatures started like rubbing up against the tent that I was leaning against on the backside. I mean, we've all been out in the woods. I know you guys go out and do serious work, but we've all been out in the woods and had the hell scared out of us. You know, if you've done it enough, you've heard sounds that you thought like,
yep.
Does a barred owl, can they make those monkey sounds? Like what is going on out here? So yeah.
I'll never forget the first barred owl I ever heard doing the monkey chatter sound. Like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
And my son was with me, who is obviously he's a New York State Forest Ranger and was Fish and Wildlife Management degree in that. And he was like, "Oh, that's a barred owl." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
So very, very fascinating. And if you don't know the sounds of the woods, it can make it really a tough time for some people to think that every little bump in the night's Bigfoot. But
right.
we know it's not. But it's nice to, especially in your position as an author, to kind of imagine what if. And I think that's the cool thing about this book is there's a lot of what ifs in there. That and the interesting thing is you mix some real life stuff in with this memoir.
Right. Yeah. People have asked me about the believability aspect of it, and I tried to make it as casual and as accurate as possible. As I said, my brother and I spent so much time in those woods. The opening chapter is set in Puerto Rico, which is a place I visited several times. Where at the start of the book, I'm brought an injured chupacabra by a little girl. Right.
So you've studied all of them, or have some knowledge of all of these creatures, obviously, to get into write a book about this.
Yeah.
I
not as much as you two, but yeah.
In the early 80s, as a teenager, male teenager, when you talk about having a greenhouse out in the woods and have herbs in there, I'm kind of thinking of what kind of herbs we would have been growing around here back at that time.
Yeah. No, we were growing that too. That's in the book also.
Yeah. Yes, as it is.
Yeah, with a reference to maybe that's why they call them skunk apes. Yeah.
So, let's get into the Bigfoot portion.
Sure.
As you're a scientist, no matter how you cut it.
Yeah.
What is, what are your thoughts on the existence of a Sasquatch?
Yeah. So, I've spent a good bit of time reading. I've been in the middle of Jeff Meldrum's book, that led the Sasquatch, and I spent a lot of time studying anthropology and history and that sort of thing. And I am definitely, on the fence as to where the populations are and how many there would be. For people who don't believe in Bigfoot, I don't think they're as open-minded as they probably should be. There's so many primates out there that something like 5% of the primates that have lived on this planet have been identified over the last, 5 million years or something like that.
Yeah.
Like only 5%.
I think that's what I was reading in Meldrum's book, actually. Yeah. our knowledge is really bad, and it's hard to get all the data. You're just not going to get it.
Now, if obviously you would think that their physiology would be very similar to other primates.
Sure. Yeah.
Have you speculated in your mind that what, like, for example, there's talk about a Sasquatch perhaps having a tapetum lucidum.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because, in my
Right.
research, there have
Right.
been, they're all lower primates, unfortunately, that have this, that are primates that have a tapetum lucidum. There's no higher primates or, great apes that have a tapetum
Right.
lucidum, obviously. But what are your
Yeah.
thoughts? Going to be an adaptation?
Yeah. I don't think there are any great apes with tapetum lucidums, right?
No, there's not.
Yeah.
No.
So why would you think that, like a Gigantopithecus or any other sort of great ape would have them? I don't think they do.
The reason why I ask is because in so many sightings, including my own, we have this definitive eye shape that comes back.
Yeah, the red eyes and all that.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
I think that's hocus pocus. I think that's imagination.
I don't think it was
Oh, no.
imagination on mine.
Okay.
Oh no, no, it's not imaginary, my friend.
This really makes it. I had this discussion with my wife about an hour ago. Like, you guys know so much more about that aspect of what people have seen and that sort. Yeah, but than I do. Yeah, I mean, so what are your thoughts? You think that?
Well, I think that, bioluminescence, that's what the hocus pocus part of it.
Oh.
I don't believe, because there's no primates that can bioluminesce. Not even a mammal can do that.
Right.
However, there are, like I said, there are primates that do have a tapetum lucidum.
Okay.
There are mammals that have tapetum lucidums. So I feel that because they're a nocturnal creature primarily, I figured that may have been an adaptation, a genetic adaptation over the years, an evolutionary type of thing.
Right. Yeah. Well,
I don't know if that's out in left field.
Yeah. I guess the eye and the version of the eye has evolved like in 40 different ways or something like that. I don't know if you guys have come across that. So there's a remarkable amount of what eyes have done to evolve. So yeah.
Well, as a human, we don't have it. We don't. You
Yeah.
can shine a flashlight on our eyes, and
Yeah.
you're not going to get a red glow or anything like that, any kind of color. But with
you get them with cameras for some reason, though, right?
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's what they call that, the red eye effect.
Yeah, the red eye,
The
yeah.
red eye effect, but
That's probably from the light reflected that the lens can absorb or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not a lensologist guy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's the
But-
blood vessels. I think it's the blood vessels on the back of your
Yeah.
eye that light up a little bit with the camera. But yeah.
But it's something that it's really common. It's one of my favorite questions to ask the witnesses if they had seen the eye shine. What
Yeah.
color did you get? And a lot of times that varies. Some people will say red. Some people, well, the overwhelming majority has been red. But you'll get some people that say, well, it was kind of orange or kind of yellow, and then some even has reported a blue. A bluish eye shine.
or a greenish.
A greenish, and that's a new one on me.
And a lot of that has to do with the type of light being used, the angle of refraction, humidity, stuff like that.
And this is all nighttime?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's that's always been the biggest interest. Now, I'll give you another theory that I want to bounce off your head too, as well, is that it seems like a lot of the animal families, the largest in the family, always has the use of infrasound. For example, the biggest cats have infrasound. The the elephant uses infrasound. The blue whale uses infrasound. Just to name a few. My thought is, and there's been a lot of discussion about these paranormal effects of Bigfoot, stuff like that. My assertion is that a Bigfoot may have the ability to use infrasound, being the biggest of the primates. And I think, it's consistent because the biggest whales use it, the biggest elephant, and they have their own believe it or not, I believe there are relatives to the elephant that exist. But they have the ability to use infrasound. Obviously, lions and tigers use infrasound. They're the biggest felines. And I believe wolves, the biggest canines, can use infrasound as well. So my thought is, why not the biggest primate? It seems like all the largest of the mammals have this ability to use that. It would make sense to me that a Sasquatch would use infrasound, being the biggest primate of its class.
And what would they do with it?
Well, a lot of people will get the feeling of being creeped out. The hair on the back of the neck with no apparent audible hearing anything. Some cases, people would feel an ear flutter, like a vibration in the eardrum. And it's kind of funny because Chris experienced that first, and I thought he was crazy.
Oh.
And then all of a sudden that happened to me at a time when we were when I was experiencing the same type of creeped out type of I'm being watched type of feelings. Some people get nauseous, people get messy. I mean, the paranormal aspect of it is people think that, I got this feeling to get out of there or this message to get out of there. But these are all legit effects of infrasound.
Right.
And that's why we're thinking that a Sasquatch may be able to use this because of the size of the creature.
Wow. And would they use it like for communication with each other?
It seems like the most use of this, like the lions, because the blue whale uses infrasound for communication.
Yeah.
The lions and tigers use it to immobilize their prey, give them a quick heads up to kind of keep them in place for a second or two while they can pounce. So I believe that the Sasquatch uses infrasound as a defense mechanism to push people away.
That's fantastic. So
I have no idea why they use it or why they do it or how they do it.
Yeah.
But they do something.
Right. So like from the veterinary standpoint, infrasound doesn't come into my world at all, But as the scientist and the biologist, that's fantastic. One of the things I talk with people about, because they think humans are so darn superior and so smart, is that like we don't experience the world like half as well as the rest of the creatures on this planet. I have discussions with people who like leave a light on for their cat when they go away. Like he's nocturnal. Like he doesn't need a light, or people will be surprised when their cat maybe goes blind, because that happens. But cats hear better than we do. They smell better. They have a better sense of smell. They have the whiskers. They have better balance. Like we live in a really boring. When it comes to the animal kingdom, our world is really not that interesting compared to the rest of the kingdom. People talk about color deficiencies and color blindness, like. A lot of men have color blindness, and you probably know this. That we have the three cones, right, that help us see the different prisms. Like there's birds and fish out there that have 6 and 7 different kinds of cones, right? I mean, the things that they see must be amazing.
We'll never know what we're missing out on.
Well, there's actually websites that you can go to that say like this is what it looks like when a cat sees things versus you. Because the eyes are like farther forward and they have better depth perception and they pick up on movement faster, and they see just as well at night as they do during the day, so you're driving your car at night and you can't hardly see what's going on. If you were a cat, you wouldn't even need headlights.
Right.
Yeah. You just buzz along.
Now Lockbeard said that something to the effect of just because it's large, that's no reason to suspect that a Bigfoot can use infrasound. Au contraire, you're not parsing what I said very closely. What I said is all the mammals of each species, or each class, I should say, have the ability to use infrasound. All the largest of
classes.
Yeah. That is a commonality amongst all mammals. So why, if Sasquatch being the primate, why would it not have that ability? It's a good, solid thought behind that theory, considering that people have been throwing around the infrasound theory without using that particular bit of information is that, geez, just by coincidence, all the largest of all the other classes have the ability to use infrasound, or some of the classes, like such as canines, felines, and elephants and the like, and whales. So it makes sense. Not saying it's a definite. We're just saying that there's a possibility because of this connection with other mammals. So there is a reason. And I agree. If you saw eye shine, there's no reason to think it was Bigfoot, unless, of course, you have that big thought, or you have some other type of activity to go along with it. And I agree with that. Not all eye shine is Bigfoot. I think we actually did a Bigfoot laugh track with a moose. And, people say, oh, Bigfoot being stalked by moose. And this was put out on the web as being a real Bigfoot video. And you see all of these little eye shines in the back. Very simply, they were just other moose. That's what they were. Wasn't Bigfoot. And, obviously a moose stands tall. So the eye shine is way off the ground, but there's no reason to suspect it's Bigfoot. It's probably just other moose is what it is. Yeah. So
I know, and if you're in Kentucky and you see red eye shine, well, you've got about three things to consider. A bear, or an owl, or a Bigfoot.
and Joe, that is correct. He says no primate uses infrasound. Prove me wrong. Well, if we get a Sasquatch, we may be able to prove you wrong. No other whales use infrasound except the blue whale. Figure that one out. So, and last I checked, whale was a mammal. So, this is a conversation.
It's just a theory, Joe. It's not proven.
Right.
However, I've experienced it, and Steve's experienced the same thing, and I wouldn't even thought anything about it if Tommy, which was Scott's son, hadn't been standing directly in front of me when we had that encounter, and he swiped his ear as he was batting an insect away at the same time and on the same side to where it hit me at the same time. So I knew, hey, whatever they're doing something. Don't know what it is.
Okay, Raptor Crazy says all we have is a picture. We can't speculate on something we know nothing about, but we do know a lot about it. If we know stuff about primates and Bigfoot being a primate, wouldn't we know something about Bigfoot?
Yeah.
And that makes perfect sense. I
it's
can't
just a theory, but
I can't believe that let's face it, we don't need a body on a slab to know. You can't say we don't know anything about a species. For example, do we suspect they're nocturnal? Yes. Why? Because the majority of the sightings have occurred at dusk or afterwards, percentage-wise. So that's a huge one. Number two, do we suspect they have a tapetum lucidum? Well, yes, by the strong number of accounts of people seeing them, putting the light on them and having their eyes glow back. Having a tapetum lucidum makes a lot more sense than the alternative saying they can bioluminesce. Number three, can a Sasquatch cloak? Well, obviously not, because aside from the polar bear, which has special characteristics of its hair, right? No other creature has hair that changes their appearance necessarily, or can make them cloak. So you've got to look at all these things logically. The theories I postulate are only one step off of science. They're not two steps off of science or three steps off of science. For example, bioluminescence would be a step, because no mammal can bioluminesce. No primate can bioluminesce. No mammal can bioluminesce. Therefore, we are two steps out. As far as infrasound, no primate can emit infrasound, but mammals of the largest of their class can use infrasound.
Well,
so that's
the
why
bioluminescence
right.
from the eyes would be a common sense thing too. I mean, you got to think if the eye is making its own light and glowing, that's going to overpower the optic nerve. So what's going to get back to the brain is like this, You'll just be totally washed out with light. It won't be able to perceive anything else.
Okay, Mick, as you know, I am one of the most rational people out there. Okay. What would make me and other people in my party all feel like they're being watched at the same time? Yeah. And then have an ear flutter in their ear. And that is something that occurred to somebody else states away from me at a different time years earlier. So.
Yeah, I don't know if it's infrasound or what you would call it, but they definitely can do something to you. And if you've got like one ear facing them, it'll hit that ear and it won't hit the other.
Listen, Lockbeard, this is my show. If anybody's going to nip anything in the bud, that's going to be me. End of story. Okay? You're entitled to your opinion, but you're not to be all sorry. Okay? Nowhere near a theory. Well, you know what? If you don't like it, the door's out there. You don't have to listen to the show. Have a nice day. I'm sick and tired of people trying to shoot down over 20 years, going on 25 years of research and experiences and try to say, oh, it's not a theory. The hell it's not a theory. In fact, Dr. Jeff Meldrum believes it's possible because obviously the thick vocal cords of a Sasquatch that allegedly vocalizes miles likely has the muscularity to use infrasound. That was his reason.
Well, that's what a theory is. We're kind of tossing around the idea based on experience of what's happened, and it's not proven. No, of course not. Well, the existence of Sasquatch, Bigfoot, is not proven. There's not a body on foot, but they have theories, and that's what we got to go by. Now, when we can finally get one on a slab somewhere where we can get somebody who knows what they're doing to cut him open and take a look at the eyeballs.
So Mick says that his answer to it is biochemical reactions in the brain as a reaction to what, though, Mick? You said the word reaction to what? Because there has to be an action to cause a reaction. So there was nothing audibly smelled. Was it a pheromone release that caused that reaction? Was it somebody passing gas in the party, perhaps, or was it infrasound? I don't know.
Well, you know what, Steve? I had put a lot of thought into that because that really bothered me, and I'll tell you what. That wasn't the only time that it happened. It had happened preceding a sighting before I ever knew, because I thought, well, what if I had seen these creatures and my pulse, was increasing and I just got a flutter in the ear because of my blood pressure had increased or something of that nature, trying to keep it biologically logical explanation. But there were cases in which I experienced that flutter, had no idea there was one around. And then after I started looking around closely, oh, there he is, So I think they can do something. I don't know what it is they're doing, but I think they can do something.
Yeah, it goes back to my comments earlier. I think people don't really appreciate what the rest of the animal kingdom experiences. Our sense of hearing, going back to it, is terrible, right? I mean, there are all sorts of sounds out there that we don't hear. Our vision is nothing like an eagle's would be. You guys are outdoorsmen. You've seen a dog like track, like crazy, sense, that, so I mean, just kind of, for whatever people are just like shutting down the definite, the conversation that you shouldn't even be talking. Like we're ignorant. We're so ignorant.
Ammon Chris asked the question: has anybody ever reported a mood change due to infrasound? Well, I can only speak to my own personal experience that I believe it was infrasound. But let's look at the study in the UK that was done in the 70s with infrasound. How about the movie Paranormal Activity? That was the found footage movie that they would air. Well, a lot of people didn't know that they had piped in infrasound during they actually put infrasound into that movie soundtrack. So when it was aired in the movie theaters, it gave people definitely mood changes. They went from being happy, caring, going to all of a sudden tense, nervous,
yes,
creeped out, hair on the back of their head, being jumpy. So yeah, and the studies in the UK would correlate that people have ranged from having nausea being exposed to infrasound to vibrations in the eyes and ears, which can cause them to hallucinate, can cause them to think they're being spoken to or hear things. Now you can understand why the theory of the possibility of a Sasquatch using infrasound may explain some of these. God, this person sounds credible, but they say Bigfoot told them to get out of the woods, right? Or Bigfoot disappeared into an orb in front of them. That may be an experiment. That may actually be a scientific type of explanation as to why they're having the effect of being hit by this infrasound.
Wow.
So for every action, there's a reaction.
If my memory serves, Steve, I think Billy Willard also had a reaction to infrasound during a sighting. I think, if I remember correctly, he got violently ill and went down to the ground, or went down to his knees. If I remember correctly, Billy, if you're out there, let us know. I believe it was Billy Willard that had a reaction.
Well, I presume you guys also talk about like parallel universes and the multiverse and dark matter and all that sort of stuff. I mean, again, like it's so crazy what's out there.
There's Tim Storms can hit notes of infrasound. Well, there you go. If a human can be infrasound.
Really?
Well, the chat room's hopping.
Steve, I love your channel. I was saying is we have a video, Patty. We have some footprints, but we didn't know what they do, or we don't know if they're human or primate. Well, they're not human. Let's get that right out of our mind, because their foot structure is different.
Yeah.
Their appearance is quite drastically different. They have a neck, but you do not see it. Like it's like a gorilla type of neck with the high peak. They have a sagittal crest in some of the sightings. Flat nose, lack of earlobes, hair covered, larger. Sounds like to me that this is not a human. Genetically, it wouldn't be possible to have all those types of variations in one creature and say that it's human. There would be a deviation from human DNA. Not saying it may not be the closest thing to us, but saying that it's not quite human. And I agree too. He said, I believe in different dimensions, but I don't think they apply to Bigfoot any more than they do to deer. And I agree. And Uncle Bowen says, not a monkey. Well, obviously it's not a monkey. It doesn't have a tail.
I'm not a big subscriber to quantum physics as it applies to Bigfoot. I don't think necessarily two are related.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, I mean, I do have a physics degree, so people ask me these sorts of questions. So I got a mechanical engineering degree when I was a teenager. I thought I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. And then I really
that is incorrect. When you say the word primate, like I said, there are primates. There's 12 species that have a tapetum lucidum. Tarsiers are one of them. So there are primates that do have eyes that reflect light. They're not any one of the great apes, to which Homo sapiens are considered the great apes. So that statement is not correct. Let's get on page, folks. Let's get the reality out. That not saying this is fact, but saying these are some theories that need to be explored. Yep, and lemurs too. Yeah, Joe agreed. Yeah, lemurs. So when we say primates, and that's the one thing that people get very confused. They say the word primate, they automatically think monkey. They hear the word great ape and they automatically think monkey, but that's not the case at all. If you think a chimpanzee is a quote unquote monkey, it has 94.6% of human DNA. 94.6% of their DNA matches ours.
Yeah, but there's a lot in that, 3 points.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Even if a Sasquatch was 97 or 98% of our DNA, that 2% could make some big changes, but it would not make it a human being. And obviously, to have the physical traits that are observed on a constant and consistent basis, my thoughts on that would be, how can it be human? It doesn't act like a human. It doesn't walk like a human. It doesn't leave tracks or have a footprint like a human being. Therefore, it must not be human. It doesn't quack like a duck. It doesn't walk like a duck. Therefore, it's not a duck.
Well, Lockbeard. No.
Yeah, Steve, tapetum lucidum. Yes, there are 12 species of primates that have tapetum lucidums. Yeah. Oh, and if chessboard's saying reflecting light, as far as bioluminescence, if you're saying that, I agree, because no mammal can bioluminesce their eyes and light up. And I know that Don Fuller had said, didn't the owner of the Skean Valley Country Club, when he had his sighting, say that the lights illuminated that almost like they were laser beams. But then again, if it's a foggy, misty night, which in that particular area of Whitehall can get, seeing that bioluminescence, or not bioluminescence, but seeing that reflection off the tapetum lucidum could cause them to think that they were projecting. No, there's a difference between opposes my point of view and being trollistic. And when you start saying to me, no, that's not a theory, now you're starting to become a disruption to the show. You're starting to become a disruption to that. If you say, hey, I disagree with you, okay, I don't believe this is a valid theory for whatever reason, that's fine. But don't turn around and tell me that's not a theory. It's a theory. And I'm entitled to it, just like you're entitled to believe what you want to believe. Simple as that. So, decorum, tact. Tact is the art of getting your point across without making an enemy. Remember that. So, Chris, you have questions for Dr. Timm?
Hang on just a second, Steve. There we go. Okay. I'm back. Now, so Dr. Timm, you treat cats. And do you treat big cats as well as like house cats?
It's pretty exclusively house cats. There are some people in the area that have like servals and caracals that are like almost pets, and those are like 40-pound African cats. So I've treated some of those. I mean, there are some cats at the Buffalo Zoo, but I haven't helped Dr. Voley there with them. So no.
Very cool. I think Just like the venomous snakes, I think I would draw the line at tigers. No tigers.
Yeah,
Anything.
as a student, I spent a day at the zoo. They would pair you with a handler for the day, so you would work with like the big cat handlers or the snake handlers, and I spent a day with the big cat handlers, and they're kind of creepy, just by their size and just the fact that you could be lunch for them if you like don't lock the gate properly behind you, So yeah.
Laura Owsley.
That's my wife.
Question. Okay. Can you talk about these creatures in terms of medicine? I wonder if that would be treating them.
Yeah, well, I mean,
treating a wounded one.
Yeah, so a large part of the book is obviously the veterinary aspect of it, the medical aspect of it. I talked about the chupacabra that was brought to me at the start of the first chapter. In many ways, that creature was treated like a bird would be that had as a veterinarian, people will bring you like little birds they find on the street, that have like fallen out of a nest, or the peregrine falcon that we treated when I was a student. He had simply fallen off of a skyscraper in the city of Boston. So a lot of times, you just have to use the common sense. A lot of people find birds that have, say, flown into windows and knocked themselves unconscious. So that is kind of the gist of the first chapter is, if you come across an injured chupacabra, as the veterinarian, you run through your list of what you usually do to try to make a diagnosis. You look for signs of trauma. You look for like weight loss. Does he look like he's been starving? So that's probably in many ways the most enjoyable part of this book is the medical aspect of it. That we all need someone looking out for us, that we all need care. The other part of the book that I really and I didn't set out to do this, but as I wrote it, it became more of a discussion of respect for the creatures on this planet and what we're doing to make life harder for them, and the parallels. And I've heard other people say this. I know you guys in other podcasts have talk about wolf populations or bear populations, and a lot of the same principles that apply to providing good habitat for a Sasquatch would be good for bears, or wolves.
That's what gets me. Some of the documentaries I've watched, especially about the Pacific Northwest, and some of the professional scientists that they had there were saying things like, well, obviously there's not enough calories to support a large mammal in this area. And what gets me is that area that they're in right at that moment is populated by bears.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, well, who didn't tell this person there's bears living there, because obviously they're getting something to eat.
Yeah, you wonder what that person's background is, or whether they have studied wildlife biology or know a ranger or anything like that. Yeah. I mean, there's bears in Buffalo that show up from time to time. We live on the Pennsylvania border and down into the Allegheny region. Like bears, there's huge bear populations down there, and they wander up on the train tracks and show up in suburban Buffalo, because they get driven out by their mother. Like, okay, it's time to go on. And, so like anybody that's saying that they can't, that territory can't support that population is delusional.
Right. Yeah, we didn't have, at one point in central Kentucky, we had a large population of bears, and I guess the locals had killed them out. I mean, this was a long time ago. Yeah. So no, most of the bears in Kentucky now are actually over in the eastern section of the state. Okay. And in central Kentucky, south central Kentucky, hardly ever see one. But a couple of years ago, somebody filmed one running across an open field, like, look, it's a black bear. What's that doing here? And that was like 2 miles from my house.
Yeah.
So I think some of these things can move back into areas,
Well, they absolutely have. Yeah, they absolutely have. And a lot of people talk about the cat populations too, the large cat populations, and how they've migrated around, and how they get lost, or they get driven out, and they show up in places where people weren't expecting to find them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a very big issue here locally at Mammoth Cave, Kentucky, the national park.
Yeah. I've been there.
People were spotting large cats in the area.
Yeah.
And of course, the park superintendent was just like, every time he would get a report, he would just, brush it away. Oh no, they probably saw somebody's dog, no.
Right.
It can't be. There's no large cats in the park.
Right.
And that went on for a long time. And until the staff that worked in the main office had one jump on their car in the parking lot of the main, the building where everybody worked at.
Yeah.
And they came inside and said, hey, they're here. We've got a big cat here.
Yeah.
And then they finally did.
Was it on like the parking lot surveillance camera, or how?
I don't know if they got it filmed or not.
Yeah.
But I know the staff saw it either jumped on a car or jumped over a car in the parking lot while they were going into work.
Oh my God.
And they reported that. They said, well, look, you're going to have to make some kind of announcement here, to let people know there is a big cat. Yeah. And sure enough, they took out a small ad in the local newspaper. Well, we're not saying. There's been reports that they've had a sighting here of a large cat, so here's what to do in case you encounter one.
Yeah.
Make yourself big, and it went through the whole rigmarole.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, the challenge with large cats is you don't see them coming. You hear about people, out hiking in California, and
I saw a documentary not too long ago about a man riding a mountain bike, and I think he was in California.
Mm-hmm.
He got attacked from the back. Never saw it coming.
Yeah.
That's the way the cats do. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they get you on the back of the neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they know what they're doing. They're built for it.
Very efficient predators.
Yeah.
Well, what got you into cats? I know you started specializing in cats rather than dogs and farm animals and stuff. Did you you feel like a personal connection with them?
Yeah, I do love cats. I've always loved cats. And I think it was cats that made me, tip the scales that I was going to go to vet school when I was about 25. I just have a love of them. They're wild. They can never really be domesticated, but they can still live in your house, and they're smart, and I do love cats. I spend most of my day with them. I go to work and I get cats all day, and then I have cats at home. So I'm pretty much up to my eyeballs in cats. Yeah.
I'm with you. I am a cat person. I love cats, and don't get me wrong, the wife has Yorkies, and although I'm not really crazy about dogs, I love her little Yorkies. They can get into your heart, but not like a cat. A cat, I had a big orange cat called Morris, and he's no longer with us, but I sure do miss him. But he was a great cat. I mean, he always appreciated anytime you come in. Cats make the best companions because it doesn't matter. You come in 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. They don't care where you've been.
Right.
They don't care what you've been doing. They just love you,
Yeah. I'm a dog person too. I mean, I like both of them, but yeah. And we've had rabbits. As a kid, we had guinea pigs and all sorts of stuff. So, and I've had, roommates with birds, and, I love birds. But it's probably my favorite hobby is going out and hiking and bird watching and trying to see something interesting out there. Yeah.
Well, getting back to the Bigfoot discussion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry we got kind of sidetracked there, Steve. as a medical doctor, what I know it's been said that these creatures would require several thousands of calories per day to survive or exist.
Right.
What would you speculate that they would eat? Do you think they would eat mostly plants, or do you think they would be meat eaters, or just like omnivores? Whatever is around, they shove it in their mouth. What would be your opinion?
I think they'd be omnivores, and I think they would probably eat seasonally of what was available, just like a bear or other creatures would. I mean, I don't see them sitting around in this part of the world, munching on what mountain gorillas do and having those big fat like digesting bellies. I think they'd have a diet similar to what you would have if you were making it, surviving out in the woods. Yeah, I think they'd eat berries. I think they'd catch fish.
Well, I think Dr. Jeff Meldrum had a theory that perhaps these creatures could possibly have a longer gut.
Okay.
So they would be able maybe to, in theory, they would be able to digest roughage that, although maybe we couldn't digest and get the most nutrients out of it, but they possibly could. So that would free them up to have more plants and eat more plants than we would normally be able to eat and survive on.
Yeah.
But I also do believe they'd eat meat.
Yeah.
Because they're often found in population with areas with high deer populations and high the hog populations, like over at Fouke, Arkansas.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the hog population's mostly new, though, right? With the introduction and
I
don't know that I'd ever try to take down a boar myself. That seems like maybe a Sasquatch is brave enough to do it, but those creatures scare me pretty bad.
Well, I was talking on the area around Fouke, Arkansas, where that the creature from Boggy Creek, the Boggy Creek creature, and they have wild boars that have been living there. They're for long periods of time. And the recent documentary I watched about it today, they had a guy that was talking about the pig population there, that there was really plentiful. So, like deer, I'm sure that could be considered a food source. But I'm with you, though. I believe they're omnivores. I think whatever is available, they're going to shove it in their mouth. From tree bark to deer meat, whatever they can find, they can eat. Okay, Mick. Several thousand calories or a slice of my ex-mom's nuclear meatloaf. Okay.
All right. Nice.
I don't know, Mick. They would probably enjoy the meatloaf.
I don't know about that. Give them some nuclear waste, that's for sure.
Oh, no, Tim. Tim Halloran says mice, moles, snakes, birds, lizards, frogs, rabbits. Now, Tim, I'm sorry, bud. I draw the line at snakes. I would probably not, and lizards, No snakes, no lizards. I could probably stand frog legs. It's kind of creepy when you think about it, but have you ever ate one? Really?
I have. I don't like them.
Well, it's one of those things you can't think about it. You just got to think it's a really long, skinny chicken leg.
Nice.
It's not chicken, though.
I'll pass.
No, it's not.
It's like eating snails.
Eating a snake, that's just not for me. I mean,
snails.
Oh, snails either. No. That's not for me either. I was always paranoid about snails.
I've had alligator, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, down in Louisiana, people will eat just about anything from, squirrels to the frog legs to, the alligators to the turtles to, I had a pretty, and the crawfish, of course, right? They just grow in, just live in the ditches there. They throw out netting and, come back the next day and have a boil and have a big party, with these little spicy, freshwater lobster, basically. So Yeah, they're a different kind of vor down in not even sure what to call. Not even sure what to call my people down there in Louisiana. If you get enough garlic and cayenne on it, it's going to be pretty good.
Well, that Louisiana food, the Cajun food, oh my gosh, that stuff is spicy. I thought Thai food was spicy, but man, those guys can really pepper stuff up.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah. So I'm working on a story about the Cajun werewolf. I don't know if you guys know. You guys seem to know everything about the Rougarou, the Cajun werewolf.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a Rougarou festival in Homa that I need to get down to one of these days. So yeah, the Cajun werewolf is it's a classic werewolf story with like Lent and all sorts of other things thrown into it just to make it weirder and funnier.
That's another question I have. The dog man to me seems a little bit of a stretch of it walking upright.
Yeah.
Because the legs, they say, it has canine legs in the back. It's just standing up, and those legs are not meant to walk bipedally. It's certainly not support that kind of weight all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, would that be kind of an accurate statement?
I would think so. Yeah. And the creatures in my book are the believable ones. It's not that much of a stretch to think there are jackalopes out there. A lot of creatures grow antlers, so why can't a rabbit do it? And in one of my chapters, I work at a mermaid conservation institute about halfway through the book, right? And that gives me an opportunity to go to Newfoundland, right, and talk, because I love Newfoundland. Spent 3 years of my life there studying the ocean physics, and what a better place to be a mermaid, with all the cod and all the resources there than Newfoundland. And going back to what we were saying a few minutes ago, Newfoundland the ocean there used to be a pretty magical place as far as the productivity. The stories of hundreds of years ago, you didn't really have to go fishing. You just threw a bucket into the water and cod would come up. But the same things that have devastated the cod industry and the right whales have also hurt the mermaid population too. It's kind of hard to live out there with all the pollution and climate change and irresponsible fishing and that sort of thing.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I wonder if they ever got the big plastic part of the ocean cleaned up over out in the Pacific. What do they call that? The trash ring or something?
Yeah.
There's supposed to be a guy, I can't remember what his name was, built a machine to clean that up, to clean all the plastic up out there in the big garbage patch. And I don't know how he's doing. It's been a while now. Maybe he's got it cleaned up. I hope he does.
Well, there's a lot of those, actually. I actually spend a lot of my time volunteering with Waterkeeper, which they're all over the world. They're all over the country. Right. They're really active in the Great Lakes area because there's so much legacy pollution and so many problems in this part of the state. But they actually there's a guy who builds trash wheels. There's one in Baltimore out in the harbor there. They just skim trash all day, and they're solar powered. They installed a couple of them in the Buffalo Harbor recently too. So I mean, people are working on this from a variety of levels. Yeah, right. But yeah, it's a huge problem. I mean, it would seem like the smart thing to do would be to just not throw it in there in the first place. But you kind of with a problem like that, you kind of have to work at it from both ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's all to blame on the previous generation because you got little what's her name, Greta. Wait a minute, Greta Thunberg.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
She's very passionate about the environment, and that's great. Everybody should care about the environment. But when she gets so emotional and she says stuff like, "How dare you?"
Yeah.
Ruin the environment with your plastic.
Yeah.
And I just wish I could talk to this girl because I would tell her, Greta, honey, it's not my generation. We drank from returnable glass bottles. We drank our water from a faucet in a glass. We didn't drink out of plastic bottles. If we had a straw in school, it was made out of paper.
Yeah.
Our milk cartons were waxed paper cartons. So, perhaps somebody of a little bit later generation may have had a little more to do with it than my generation.
And do you know why? And most of us in our generation had nothing to do with it, even the later generation. It's the bean counters that said, hey, there's a cheaper way of doing this. Let's provide that vehicle.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
We can make 3 cents more on the dollar if we do it this way.
And damn,
sure, we're killing the environment, but so what? That's 3 cents, man.
Yeah. Well, somebody's going to pay for it eventually, so.
Yes.
So anyhow, back to our favorite topic. Can I say something tonight that somebody's not going to snap at me about? And I'll tell you what, if I seemed a little crass, I've had that kind of week this week, so I apologize if I seem to be a little crass. People have been jumping on me for things this week, and I'm not I don't mind discussion, but please don't invalidate my beliefs or theories, because I certainly don't invalidate yours. You're entitled to believe. You want to believe Bigfoot is a human, you're entitled to believe that. I disagree. This is the reason why I disagree. Yeah. Don't tell me that I'm invalid or that's not a theory or anything like that. That's what puts people in timeouts, when they don't want to discuss why. They just want to gaslight. And when people gaslight, out they go. And for a little time, just to reconsider their position. And that's the reason why I did it. So,
and the thing is,
I have no problems with disagreement or some good constructive talking, but don't tell me that mine is not a theory when in fact it is.
Oh yeah, well, we've Steve and I have collaborated on this one over the years.
Well, we've collaborated a number of things.
Yeah,
but you see that's where. Like there's people that believe Bigfoot shapeshift and do whatever. And okay, I have 1,000 reasons why they're wrong, but I don't tell them that they're invalid. I tell them that you're wrong. Now, I may have fun with other theories. I may have fun with stuff like that. All good. And that's how we have a good discussion. And the reason why I put that gentleman in because he was gaslighting by saying, "Oh, that's not a theory," and yada yada. And that's why. That's the same thing the people that defend the hoaxers say. Got to get out of that mindset. We got to engage, not, put somebody down. And that's, by saying that, you're putting the person down that you're saying that to. That's not a theory. Well, you're putting me down. Instead of saying I disagree with that theory. Now you understand why I did what I did. So, enough said about that. We move on.
I believe Charlie. I believe
Charlie Wonton has a lot of wise words.
Oh man.
So I and I've been very, very, I was just aware of not trying to gaslight, or try to, shut somebody down or be negative towards them or their beliefs. It's something that obviously could have, we're getting to that in the Bigfoot community where, it's getting as polarized as the political spectrum sometimes. So
yeah, we don't do politics,
right?
Not in Bigfoot either. Now, there are a lot of different ideas about what these creatures can do and what they cannot do. Some people seem to think different things, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I just, Steve and I don't entertain anything outside the point of the creatures being biological living beings that capable of doing what a biological living being can do. Because quite frankly, you know, I'm a skeptic, and I know Steve is too. I mean, he you know, we're going to look at it from the skeptic's point of view. We can only theorize about what we've seen and what we've experienced and the notes we've taken on observation
and experiences.
And
experiences,
right?
Reports, you know, observation.
And it's not
like I'm coming out. It's not like I'm coming out of left field on any of the stuff.
No.
It took me a long time to get from point A to point B. That's for sure. Because when I came into this, pardon the expression, but I thought everything was bullshit. You know, and that's the bottom line.
A lot behind the scenes you guys don't see, but you'll see it one of these days. You'll see it.
You know, there's a one of the chapters in my book is set in Newfoundland and involves fairies actually, which, you know, that's a hard one to prove. You know, whether fairies exist. So, and you know, we have such a large amount of literature on fairies, right? Going back for centuries. So
yeah.
And you know, I didn't realize how strong the fairy culture was in Newfoundland. The university that I studied at there, Memorial University, their folklore department actually had a separate department on fairy culture and all the sightings of it and the belief in it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, you know, I and you know, that's it. Later on in the book, and you know, I talked about, you know, believability, you know, as far as presenting your story, just so, you know, so because if it's obviously it's more enjoyable if you start believing, you know, that you know these things are real. But when it comes to fairies, I mean, it's basically just, you know, enjoying the history of it. You know,
which brings me to the next interesting thing about Bigfoot is people saying Bigfoot braiding a horse's hair. And there's been reports by another veterinarian, Dr. Melba Ketchum, who says, "Oh, wait, it must have been Bigfoot braiding my horse's hair." You know, our good friend Mr. Duffy 81 said the Bigfoot braid. But for generations, there have been something called fairy knots, and I guess in England they used to say either the witches or the fairies were braiding the horse's hair. But what it turns out to be is, I guess, when horses kind of rub against one another sometimes, their manes get knotted up.
Sure. Okay.
And that's what people, you know, have been attributing this to Bigfoot and to other things when it's a very common occurrence.
So Bigfoot comes to your pasture and braids your horse's hair?
That's what some have said. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Like a French braid, or what are we doing here? And the tail too? The tail?
Yeah, maybe a cornrow. A cornrow. Wow. I don't know.
Okay. I love you guys. This is great. I've learned all sorts of stuff tonight.
But that's some of the reports. Do we believe them?
There have been reports. Yes, there have been reports. Okay.
Well, you guys are in pretty deep. Wait. I spent 40 hours a week at a veterinary practice. Yeah. So I don't get all this stuff.
No. When it comes to stuff like that, like somebody says Bigfoot is braiding a horse's mane, that's where I draw the line. I'm saying, well, I'm sorry, that's straight out of left field, has nothing to do with what I know for research. I'm sorry, I just can't go there.
So do they send it to you as though it's proof? Like, who else could have done it but Bigfoot?
You know, that's the thing. You know, I didn't see it myself, so I don't. I really can't subscribe to that theory, but it's possible. You know, I don't know.
As a mischievous teenager, I used to braid my neighbor's horse's hair, her mane. You know, I would just be out like 2:00 in the morning. Horse would come up to the fence. I'd have apples and carrots, and we'd spend some quality time. And I would braid the mane, and we thought it was pretty damn funny because we knew they were going to see it in the morning and think, "What in the hell happened to my horse last night? Where have you been?"
No,
So yeah,
no, Dr. Tim, they probably said, "Oh my God, it's
Right.
Bigfoot."
yeah, right. You know, I learned something like almost every day with this stuff. Like I grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana, which is only like half an hour from Boggy Creek,
All right,
right? From
very
Fulton.
cool.
Right. And so when I watched the movie, when I look at the documentaries of it, I'm like, wow, that's where I used to go, like right near where you used to go water skiing and swimming and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's totally, yeah.
Lockbeard, is he still on that
Yeah, he's coming at
censorship
you again.
device? Another censorship device, those who cannot stand with scrutiny, disabling the dislike button. I've never disabled anything.
No,
You can still give us a thumbs down. I see them when
Sure.
they come in. You just can't see the likes versus dislikes on the channel because people weaponize it. That's why.
Yeah, there was a question about the different kinds of Bigfoot-like creatures too. I think that went right on by. I think that was with the. There was somebody commenting on like the difference between Yetis and Bigfoot and all that.
yes.
And I'm reading Gareth Patterson's book, Beyond the Secret Elephants. I don't know if you guys have read that.
No.
He's
I haven't.
fantastic. He's fantastic. He's a primate and elephant researcher in South Africa. He's a biologist and a wildlife biologist, and I'm only partway into the book, but in his, because he found an unknown species of elephant in South Africa that was like 15 years ago in some really deep bush there, where the locals have been saying like there's definitely a different kind of elephant here, and nobody believed him. And then he continued researching and looking into it, and he discovered a third species of elephant called the Nisna, and then he also saw some sort of hominids out there that he couldn't really explain. So I'm halfway through the book. He's a beautiful writer, and it's just and he's very yeah. There he goes. Yeah, Otang. So someone's helping us out. Yeah.
Is
So
Bigfoot different from a Yeti, or is one Arctic and the other one isn't?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So I think this has been a journey for me. It's exposed me to a lot of different things, and I think the most enjoyable, one of the most enjoyable experiences I had, I was out for dinner in Dallas with my mother, my 80-something-year-old mother, and I was wearing actually the same shirt that you posted on your link there with the Gone Squatching, which everybody loves that shirt. And I am from Minnesota too. My family came from Minnesota, and the guy serving us at a Nepali Indian restaurant in suburban Dallas was obsessed with Yetis. And he was about 65 years old or so. And he had been in the Nepali military and on maneuvers in the Himalayas. And so when I had this shirt on, he was just like obsessed with like, it's all he wanted to talk about. He almost stopped like serving us because he wanted to talk about his experience with out in the middle of nowhere. It was great.
Well, I gotta say, I've seen the photos and of the Yeti footprint, and the toe structure is quite a bit different from what those purported to be Sasquatch or Bigfoot in the United States is. So I don't know if they would be different or not, but obviously, their foot construction is definitely a little different. Of course, it could have been that one creature, if that's what it was, or those could have been, instead of a Yeti, those could have been footprints from a bear.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one Dr. Brian Sykes. I think he found DNA evidence of an extant bear, which was purported to be Bigfoot hair, but it come out to be a bear. That's
Right.
a mixture between a polar bear and a brown bear, I think. I'm not certain.
Yeah.
Or a Nepalese bear. But yeah, they do have a different looking foot for sure.
Certainly. Well, a Yeti is just another term, so Yeti are not North American. Then it's not a term used for North American.
No.
They're used in Tibet. They're used in Nepal. The whole abominable snowman was that the use of that particular term was actually a mistake, a misinterpretation by a reporter that caused that to come out as the abominable snowman.
Good.
Yeah.
I think what else? But they all share a lot of the same characteristics. Some are different. Some may actually be another type of species, such as the orang pendek, which is seen a little bit differently. Orang pendek of Malaysia is seen in Vietnam as well. Is seen a little bit different than a Sasquatch. It's much smaller. It has some other unique things that are unique to them than what's been reported here in North America. So I think, the Yeren pretty much matches up. The Yowie pretty much matches up. The Almas, which is in, the Yeren is China. The Almasti or the Almas of Russia matches up very similar to the Sasquatch or Bigfoot. Sasquatch obviously was first coined by in 1924 by Canadian journalist J.W. Burns off the I believe the actual term Sasquatch. And then Bigfoot came obviously from the 1958 Jerry Crew sighting, which actually said a new type of Sasquatch is found. It's called Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Bigfoot was in big letters. So, and Joe says that orang pendek thinks it may be Homo
floresiensis. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Little people, the hobbits. Good one, Joe.
So,
people thought the stories of the little people were
Joe keeps saying
just
those
fairy
big
tales.
words.
And as it turned out, sure enough, Homo floresiensis, they found the bones of little people. But it makes perfect sense to have you got a small land mass there that the people living there are going to grow smaller and not larger.
Of course, how about the Mapinguari of South America?
Mapinguari, yeah. Wow, we had some great episodes on that one.
Yes. I actually had a gentleman on who was part of a ranger detachment, who him and his
his squad. Right, he got separated from his squad on a mission out there in the jungle in the middle of nowhere. How long was it? 21 days or something like that?
22 days, something like that. He was
22
separated.
Days?
They thought he was listed as missing in action.
He was lost in the jungle.
But him and his squad actually had a sighting of a Mapinguari. And the Mapinguari is described as a very sloth-like. Raptor Crazy says, Cliff said that Cliff Barrickman had found out that some people there were sending him false information. He said it was a hoax. But I can't believe that the entire orang pendek mystery is a hoax, because that's been reported for years as well. That would be like saying, will Rick Dyer fake the Bigfoot, and, whatever, and all the other cast of assortments of Bigfoot's got to be fake. So there's got to be some truth to it for them to hoax it. If they came up with some amazing creature, or somebody says, oh, look, this is a picture of a unicorn, and they have a horse with a, whatever strapped to their head, and it's just a one-off, and there's no other reportings of unicorns, then I'd be a little misguided to say, oh, it's a hoax. But the entire phenomenon to be a hoax, look at the Loch Ness Monster. Even the surgeon photo, which was in, I think, 1931, That turned out many years later to be a hoax. But that didn't take away
Ingenious
for the
toy
time.
submarine.
Yeah, for the time. Yeah.
Yeah, for that time.
But for
now you can go by any.
Obviously, that got spurned by an authentic event of people seeing something in the lock.
Yeah.
So there is something to that mystery, but what it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the lake monsters, sea monsters, they persist everywhere. People.
Actually, there is.
I keep seeing them all over the place.
How much evidence is there for the existence of the Mapinguari? Well, truthfully, the Mapinguari is just the South American version of Bigfoot. But the funny thing is that tribes from the Amazon on one side of the Amazon were talking about it, and so were ones on the west side that had never communicated with one another. So they were both seeing the same thing, describing it very similarly. There have been Mapinguari sightings. I don't think we cover them as much as we do because we don't have necessarily the presence of a Mapinguari. We don't talk about Mapinguari too much here in the United States. Doesn't mean it's like orang pendak, Yeren. What's the existence of Yeren? Can you off the top of my head give me 10 Yeren sightings? You can't.
Well, if you look at it
specific to a particular culture.
Yeah, I think if you look at the Bigfoot mystery as a skeptic, there are a few things that are hard to explain, and one of them is why are there so many names from so many different cultures, different names, but they all describe almost exactly the same hairy creature that
now you see,
looks like a man. It's
that
really
Mick is gaslighting. That's gaslighting. Present the evidence that there's very little evidence. Because I'll replay the 2-hour episode we had with the Army Ranger.
But
we can go around and around saying present the evidence. If I say something specific like I have a Bigfoot in my backyard and we've got pictures and all that stuff, saying present the evidence is legit. But for somebody saying, the Mapinguari, what evidence, what evidence is there for the existence of a Mapinguari? About the same as a Sasquatch. I'll say that.
Grasshopper says Bigfoot is marsupial. Runs.
That's right.
Well, who knows? Australia's got some weird animals. They really do. Well, we had that discussion. Very strange animals.
Well, I think we're going to wrap the show up tonight. On that note.
Oh, man, I was having fun. The chat room is hopping. Don't get mad, Steve. Everybody's allowed their opinion. But, don't shut anybody's opinion down, guys. Just if you have a different theory, that's great. But we don't dismiss. We can talk, but we don't dismiss.
Yeah, so my book's it's not very judgmental, and
Right.
and people often ask me, they don't want to read anything where animals get hurt or die, right? That's like one of the things people say. I'm not going to buy your. I've sold a lot of them to clients, through my practice. They're like, you just have to tell me nothing bad happens to the creatures in it, So. And obviously, there's medical problems that happen to these creatures, but in the end, it all works. It works out. So
sadly, the jackalope died.
No, the jackalopes did well.
I know. I'm just.
Well. They're resilient little creatures. People. Rabbits. Those wild rabbits. They know how to take care of themselves.
It seems like every sporting goods store in New Mexico had a jackalope on the wall, though.
Right.
So I'm worried about the population.
They breed well. They breed as well as the regular rabbit. So
evidently,
I wouldn't worry too much. I wouldn't worry too much about the jackalope population. Yeah, as I said, I grew up in southern New Mexico, West Texas. Yeah, every crummy little gift shop along the highway had a jackalope skull, or and it was clearly a taxidermied rabbit head with the smallest deer antlers they could find stuck on top. But yeah. It's good. And jackalopes, but they persist. They're not American. They actually go way back in European history. There's lots of artwork of French jackalopes and that sort of thing. One of the things I really enjoyed about this book was, when you write about mermaids, there's such a long history of mermaid literature and such a big part of our culture, whether it's The Little Mermaid or Splash or, even going back to, the Odyssey and Greek mythology. So, I tried to weave a lot of that in. There's some fun things about, I brought up fairies, but, there's some great fairy stories out there. And, when my book is at its best, it almost reads like magical realism. I don't know how much into that you are, but, just, when weird things happen in a normal setting and you still believe that, it really happened. So.
Well, Dr. Timm, I haven't, we spoke earlier, and I haven't got a chance to get a copy of your book yet, which I'm going to correct that as soon as I can. But is there a section in there about sea monsters? I'm
yeah. So we have our own lake monster here in Western New York that's been spotted, all over Lake Erie. So yeah, there are some sea monsters. There is some sea monster rescue in this book. Yeah. So, and Lake Champlain has the Champy.
Yeah.
I think you live pretty close to Champlain, Steve.
Fairly close, yes.
Yeah, you're on the other end of the state. Yeah. So, yeah, sea monsters are fascinating on so many levels. Yeah, and it's a pretty big stretch to think that that plesiosaurs have lived for 65 million years, in the lakes, but yeah.
Right. As far as identifying exactly what people are seeing would be difficult, but it's kind of odd that so many people from so many different countries are spotting something unknown in the lake or in the loch, whatever.
Right. Yeah. I went to Barrie, Ontario, which is like right on the edge of the Algonquin Park, about 2.5 hours north of Buffalo for a reading a few months ago, and it's beautiful there. And the Lake Simcoe is a really, Canada's known for its big lakes, and I go there to read at the library and meet some people, and I find out, as I start talking to them about cryptids, they're like, oh, well, we have our own sea monster that shows up, occasionally out in Lake Simcoe. We call him blah, 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 like,
wow.
Like, okay, let's go down and look for him,
Well, that's cool. Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, they're everywhere.
I'm going to show my age. Who is my favorite sea monster? Sigmund the sea monster.
Yeah. I remember that guy. That's the guy with one tooth, right?
That's right, Sigmund. Remember?
Sigmund. I remember that. It's back there, boy. It's hazy, but it's back there.
That was a Marty Croft production where you do all those little. But
you got a couple years on me. I don't know that sea monster.
Oh, that was that's from the early 70s, I think. Long time ago, Dr. Timm.
I was born in 1967. Maybe I just missed out on that one.
You may have.
Yeah.
You should have been really close in there, but
Yeah. I'll go look for him.
It's hard to remember, when you go back that far. What did I watch Saturday mornings? Because that was it. That was the day. Now kids can turn the TV on any day of the week, 24 hours. And they can watch a cartoon, whatever they want to watch. In my day, and most people born in the mid to late 60s, we had to wait for Saturday morning to watch cartoons.
Yeah. Well, now they can just go to YouTube and watch you guys whenever they want, right? So I mean, I'm not complaining. I feel like I'm a sponge sometimes. I just bounce from one topic to the other, and yeah.
Wait till you see the Bigfoot laugh track coming next.
Okay. Yeah.
Chris knows what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
He saw the raw cut video and
it's gonna be good.
Yeah. I've been making my own videos of cryptids around my world too.
I saw that skiing and
yeah, you saw the skier. Yeah, we follow each
Like-
other on Instagram. Yeah,
playing in the snow.
Yeah, most people know Buffalo got buried in snow right before Christmas. So I just put on my cross country skis, and my son and I went out around me in a Bigfoot outfit, and yeah, got some good laughs out of people around the neighborhood. You know. Yeah.
The electric
cool.
boogaloo. That's the other one. The boogaloos.
Everybody's going down memory lane over in the chat now.
That's great, yeah.
Well, you know, but there was a day.
Grasshopper, HR puffing stuff. Yeah, you're old, Grasshopper.
Yeah. That didn't have any subliminal messages there, did it? HR puffing stuff. Back in the day,
Dude, I had
children's programming on Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
And Sunday mornings, too.
Well, you know, I always complained about having to get up in the mornings for school, for elementary school. I was like, you know, Mom would come in there, hey, come on, get up, got to get ready for school. I'm like, 5 more minutes, you know. But on Saturday morning, I'm waking up at like 6 a.m. to go in there and turn on the TV so I can watch the Land of the Lost or something, you know.
Me too.
Scooby-Doo.
Me too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Never had a complaint, you know, if I'm getting up to watch cartoons.
Yeah. Where the raft goes down the prehistoric toilet.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah. Yeah. Love, like,
Oh, man.
yeah.
Goes down the prehistoric John.
Mm-hmm.
I love this stuff. Yeah, that was good. It was good family-based television back then. It really was. It wasn't about I don't know.
Well, it was. We just were too young to realize.
Yeah, well, you know, we got Three Stooges and the Bugs Bunny cartoons that were not politically correct and stuff, and we didn't think anything about it. Now, you know, if somebody saw one of those Bugs Bunny cartoons that's not politically correct, they would have a heart attack. I mean, you know, and make a big deal out of it. To us as kids, didn't think nothing about it. It was funny.
Right. Yep.
Nothing.
So there have been like Bugs Bunny film festivals of the stuff that they didn't put out because they were so racy. So if you have an interest in that, I'm sure it's somewhere on YouTube. If I find it, I will send it to you because they are. I've seen some of them. They are hysterical. So what effect do you think watching Land of the Lost did on your curiosity and your imagination? Right, because that's like it's only a step away from what you guys spend a lot of your time doing. You know, it's like looking for unknown creatures, and you know, it's like I'm blanking on is it Arthur Conan Doyle that wrote the book about H.G. Wells, where they go to the Lost World, right? You know, like there's all these hidden creatures out there that we just didn't appreciate that they were there.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool.
And I'll say this to good old Raptor in there. We know who that is too. Yeah, you're welcome anytime, brother. Don't worry. I mean, talk is talk, and it's just I think sometimes discourse happens because you can't necessarily get inflection, or I think inflection is probably the word I'm looking for on text. Yeah. And I think that's why things sometimes go wild. But usually when a couple people have a discussion, it's a lot easier. So,
yeah.
Why the reason I was getting up at 6 a.m. in the morning on Saturday to watch Land of the Lost was largely because I had a crush on the girl Holly, the little blonde girl. You know, and we were the same age, and I was like, oh my God. Well, actually, she was probably a little older than I was. But oh my gosh, I just fell in
you
love
probably
with her.
watched Witch Mountain and Raced to Witch Mountain because the same actress played Holly, played in those as well.
I don't know if it was the same one. I don't think it's the same one.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, Steve.
Pretty sure. Anyway.
Same shirt. Oh, the slee stacks. Yeah, Donald, you remember? Yeah. Yeah, but they were so slow, you know. You just couldn't, they couldn't catch you. They just walked really slow. So all you had to do was just run. Oh, God. We got to get out of here, Steve, man. We've done been down memory lane telling everybody how old we are and everything.
Well, folks, another show in the bag. I want to thank Dr. Timm Otterson for coming on tonight. Check out his book. In the description, there's a place you can grab the book, and in the description below. So we again thank you, Dr. Timm, and for all you do.
Yeah, thank you. It's really great meeting you at that expo, the Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Expo. Really great, really great. I'm glad we could reconnect.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
I appreciate that you're enjoying the book. That means a lot. You know, the feedback that I've gotten from like veterinary colleagues and friends of mine who are writers, and then someone who actually studies this. I mean, that really means a lot.
Where can people acquire your book?
Yeah, the standard places. I mean, it's actually was published in Toronto by Guernica Editions, so it's available, you know, through all the conventional ways throughout Canada, and then they distribute in the U.S. too. So you know, people, you know, yeah, Amazon is, you know, the place where all the books are, but it's also at Barnes and Noble, and you know, you can find it just about anywhere. Like my local bookstore can order. You know, it's through Ingram Micro, which is a pretty big distributor. So you shouldn't have a hard time finding it.
And if you're listening on the podcast, it's All Creatures, Weird and Dangerous, Timm Otterson, DVM.
Yep.
Yeah. Son of an otter.
And for those on, you know, our Anchor FM channels, you know, over there at, you know, Spotify and iHeartRadio, and everybody check it out. I'll leave a description for you guys and where to get the book in that show description as well. So, yeah. If you haven't done it yet and you're on your way out, please hit the thumbs up or thumbs down. It doesn't matter. It helps us with the algorithm. We appreciate it. Leave a comment later on. And I don't know what more to say today other than the usual. Chris, you want to do your thing?
Yeah, well, again, I want to thank Dr. Timm for being on with us. It's been an honor to have you. I've really enjoyed having you. I've got to get that book, All Creatures, Weird and Dangerous, Dr. Timm Otterson, DVM. Yeah. I'll probably get mine off the Amazon, Scamazon, whatever.
Yeah.
And I want to thank all of our chat room listeners. We appreciate you guys. Everybody on Anchor FM, Spotify, all the podcast listeners, we appreciate each and every one of you. If you've not been by the YouTube channel, please check it out, Squatch-D TV. Easy to find. Check out some of the stuff on there. You can see the videos and you know, leave a like. If you hadn't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If it's your first time listening, especially, so you can receive the notifications, ring that bell. It helps us. It helps the search algorithm, and it helps people find us. Sure does. And, we just, you know, thank you so much. We appreciate you, each and every one.
Okay, folks. As we can say, you can look forward to this week another Squatch stories, and probably a couple of more laugh tracks, and maybe something else. You never know. And we'll be rolling out some other things real soon. Only enhance the channel. Of course, I want everybody to have a great, happy, healthy week. God bless. And of course, keep on squatching, folks. We'll catch you all next week here, Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Squatch-D TV.
Okay.
Hey folks, you've been watching Squatch-D TV. Join us each week, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for the latest on the Bigfoot mystery. As always, we thank you for being our loyal viewers and encourage all to subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/Steve Kulls. As always, have a great week. Stay safe. God bless and keep on squatching.